Hello everyone and welcome back to the studio here in Northumberland. It's been about 2 months since I've done another YouTube video, but I'm back on form again now. And what I'm going to do today is not traditional watercolours or the acrylics like we normally do on here. It's watercolour pencils, and watercolour pencils are just such a fabulous medium as an extra to your watercolours. That's how I treat them anyway. Superb for going out on location sketching. Rather than taking all your kit and doing a full-blown painting, take a tin of pencils and a sketchbook. And as you'll see when I show you how to do some later, it's just a couple of brushes that you need as well. And I just want to start off by showing you some of my old sketchbooks. And here we go. And a lot of these I used to do out on location for a lot of the TV programs. And it's just a really good reference to work a painting up from. And you've got some, in watercolour pencils, you've got some really good strong depth of colour. Look at that, for instance. And there's some lovely bright pigments amongst them as well. That one I made into a full-blown painting afterwards from the sketchbook. And I'll just flick through and show you a few. So occasionally I'll go quiet for a change. And here you'll see, look, I've made a load of notes. I'll tell you a story on that one. I was sitting there near the Leaning Tower doing a sketch out of the way on the grass where it said no walking on the grass, and I heard these Geordie voices. "Why, Charlie, man, where's the film crew?" Because they used to watch me on TNTs, and there I was in Italy. This one, for instance, that's a pizza oven. What a fancy pizza oven that is. And that's a gateway in Lucca, Tuscany. Street in Tuscany, Lucca. But look at the lovely strong colours of these. And you'll see occasionally here and there, look, there's a few pen marks. That was a customer, Margaret, that was supposed to be painting. So I named and shamed her. And more on that. Lovely, strong colours. And you'll see occasionally I've got a pen. There's some pen in there. I don't use some fancy pen for drawing. When I finish the painting, I've just put a few scribbly marks in here and there, just to highlight bits and pieces. But it's just a normal black biro. And I'll show you another one here. I've got lots of them. That was in a workshop. You can tell that's a working sketchbook. Look at that. Drips and thumb marks all over it. Everything I use is dirty. I don't care. But it's such a lovely memory. It's much better than pressing the button on a camera. You actually remember sitting there and doing that. That, I was doing a 4-day show for the publishers in Las Vegas. And I got bored on the plane coming back, so I got my watercolour pencils out, did the interior of the plane. Bit there. Just a few bits of boats. Always lovely memories. And you don't need to do a full-blown sky either. It's just a swathe of colour. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Bamborough Castle, iconic. But just sit there, do a sketch, come home and do a painting from it. Or not. Just have a sketch to remember. That was from a programme. That was at one of the outdoor museums. And Warkworth Castle, which is about 3 miles from my house here. All lovely memories. That was in Norfolk, near Blakeney. That was Margaret, sketching away. And then back to Lucca. Just little references. I'm probably not giving you long enough to look at all these properly, but just a quick flick through to show you why and how I use them. And actually something like that is such a simple little thing to do. I'll probably do that to show you how to use them. And that's actually the Blakeney Hotel down by the quayside. And I based the painting holiday in the Blakeney Hotel. Lovely place. Norfolk is such a lovely place to do a painting holiday, unless of course it's raining, and then you can't see anything because the mist comes in as well. Unfortunately, all gone to the fox. Enough of all that, and now I'm going to show you how to use some of them. So I shall get some paper on my board and we'll do a few bits and pieces. I'm afraid it's reading glasses on now because I need to be able to see what it says on the pencil. The pencils, the watercolour pencils I'm using are Lyra. I know what you're thinking, oh, he's not using Dale Rowney. Well, actually I am, because Lyra is all part of the same group as Dale Rowney. And these pencils are such lovely, strong pigment. There's quite a lot of different watercolour pencils out there, but go for the strongest pigments you can afford because they stay on the paper. As you've just seen, they don't fade, and those have been on my paper for a lot of years. You can see from here the ones that I'm going to use mainly, because here you've got the tin, which is all lovely, perfect, sharpened pencils, and these are the ones that I'm going to use mainly. I shall use more, but these are the ones I use all the time. This is a brand new tin, and what I've done, straight away, got an old penknife and sharpened them, so that they're all wonky at the edges. So I have more angles to use from, rather than just a sharp point. It makes total sense to me, what I've just said. What I'm going to show you to start with, I've got some Prussian blue here, show you how to do a sky. Because if you're not careful, what can happen in watercolour pencils is you colour the sky in, like so, and then when you wet it, you can quite often end up with lines, look, see? You still got some lines. So, the easy way to do that, I'll use my 1.5 inch wash brush here, Aquafine, 1.5 inch, the same as I use in my normal watercolours. Take the paint off the pencil, look. You're not going to hurt the pencil. And then paint it on. You've got a sky. Now, once it's on there, it's just like normal watercolour. So treat it just like normal watercolour. This one, by the way, is Prussian blue. All I'm going to do, wash out, squeeze out, and take some paint out. Look, got a sky. How easy is that? So simple. What I would say now, once I've wet that pencil, is just dry it off. There, that's it. Just so the water doesn't seep down into the thing. I have other tins of watercolour pencils, which are donkey's years old, which have been treated like that all the time, and it hasn't done the pencil any damage. Now, once I've wiped it off, it's just ready to use like a normal watercolour pencil again. Just draw on. So you're not going to harm it. So I'll let that dry for a second or two, and now we'll have a little bit of green. There's various greens in here. And I've got one here, there, that's a nice dark one. Actually, I'll start with a light one first, yeah. What I'm going to do now is just mark it on there, like so. So I've got some light stuff on first. The way to think about them is just like a normal pencil. With a normal pencil, when you press on hard, you get a darker line. It's the same with watercolour pencils. Press on harder, you're going to get a stronger colour. If you want a lighter colour, don't press on as hard. Simple. Like I said, they're such yummy, strong pigments. Now I'll have a little bit of a darker green here. Like so. Normally, as you know, in watercolour pencils, in normal watercolours, and in acrylics, I just use Hooker's green. In these, you've got loads and loads of different greens. May as well make use of them. Now I'll have a little bit of blue, again the same blue as I've just used for the sky. A bit of that there. Now, just with my number 8 round brush, plenty of water on the brush, tap on and merge those colours a little bit. Now once they're wet, I can now move those around a little bit, watch. I know I keep repeating myself, I always do, but you've got plenty of time. Once you've wet them, move them around, play with them. Look, from there we'll have a couple of poplars, look. A couple of poplar trees further away. And one there. Now I'll just go straight on with the ochre. I'm pressing on a little bit harder this time. Tape's coming off that. Pressing on a little bit harder. And just going into the base of that wet stuff. Again, back in with my brush. Wet it. Lovely bright colour that is. Isn't that simple? Look at the sky, by the way. Just looks like a normal watercolour sky. Now I'm going to show you how to do, if you've got a tree trunk close up, you see I've got some trees there, but they're quite a long way off. So if you've got a tree trunk close up and you need to see a little bit of detail into it and get a roundness to the tree trunk, very, very easy look with watercolour pencils. I'm going to use a bit of the ochre there. I'm just going to do a quick tree trunk here. Bit of yellow there, the ochre. It's actually called golden ochre, this one. Gold ochre, yeah, it's yellow ochre. Now, a little bit of Van Dyke brown, lovely rich brown. Bum, bum, bum. I'm just humming to myself, amuse myself. So that's going, it depends which way the light's coming from. If the light's coming from the left, put the ochre on the, if the light's coming from the right, sorry, put the ochre on the other side. Now, this is another one that's a lovely colour. Night green it's called. And it is a fabulous colour. And a mix as well. I'll do that there. Now, just with a wet brush, looks a mess. Just with a wet brush, merge the colours. My number 8 roundel. And I get a lovely rounded look to my tree trunk. Now again, because it's now wet and it's just watercolour on paper, I can move it around. Look, some tree trunks here, some twigs, sorry, coming out of the tree trunk. Isn't that simple? And it's such an instant medium as well. If you've got bits and pieces that you're scared of doing with a brush, do it with the watercolour pencils. Then wet it and it becomes part of the picture. Look, how easy is that? Like for instance, if you're doing people, we'll have a little bit of my Prussian blue, a bit of red, and yeah, I'll do. Look, say you're doing people in your landscape, and you're scared of doing them because they're detailed. Don't worry about it. Do it with pencil. You've got a little bit more control. Bit of red there. And just fill in a blob. Another technical term, blob. Now we'll have a little bit of the yellow again. Actually, we'll have a bit of a bright yellow there. As I say, there's some lovely strong colours in here. Back to my blue. Got blue jeans on. Now you've got your people in the landscape, all you need to do is just wet them. Back to my number 8 round brush, look. Some bits there, there. And it becomes part of the painting. People in, very, very simple. In those little bits and pieces that we've just done, I kind of like wet the watercolour pencil marks as I put them on, as I was going through the painting. Another way to do it is, if you haven't got any water, for instance, just do a drawing and then wet it when you come home. So all you need is a tin of pencils and your sketchbook, and that's it. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. As I said, I'll do this little one here. Very simple little drawing. And all I'm going to do, I've got my Van Dyke brown here, and we'll draw the building to start with. Darker here on this side. And it is just a pencil. So just draw as normal, but you've got colour on. Like so. That side there, and the roof line, and the other chimney on the far end, and again the edge of the roof there, and the roof line coming down. And now simply colour it in. As I said before, the darker the colour you want, press on harder. Like any pencil, even your normal HB. If you want a stronger line, you press on harder. Same here. If you want a stronger colour, press on harder. Just colouring in. And a little bit there. On this side, I want it very light. Look, just a hint of colour. Like so. Now, I've finished with that bit, so we'll have some greens. I want my light green and my dark green. And we'll have a few bits here to start with. Fairly light. And I'm referring to this all the way through, look. Around the edge of the house there. I'll have a little bit of that up here as well. And I'm pressing on slightly harder there, look. And of course, you can use these on any paper. I'm using these on the Langton Rough, my normal 140 pound weight paper. Or you can use cartridge paper in your sketchbooks, doesn't matter, it'll draw on all of them. Now a little bit of darker green. And again, pressing on fairly hard, carefully around the building. And of course with a pencil you've got ultimate control. And a bit of that here as well. Just scribbling. Quite fun actually. As I said, they are such yummy, strong colours. Now I'll have a little bit of my blue. And this one, as I said, Prussian blue. A bit of that in between the trees there. Just Just be aware of where you want your light to come from. Nice and dark around the edge of the house there. That'll help the house to stand out. And a bit down here as well. And shall I have a little bit of brown? Yes, I'll have a little bit of brown down there as well. Just because I can. And now a little bit of the lighter green. Pressing on slightly harder there. And a bit of that over here as well. And a touch of the brown in there. Lighter strokes. There. And now I've got a little drawing. So, ostensibly, I'm done out on location. All I have to do now is come home and wet it and make that little drawing into a painting. Watch, dead easy. Reading glasses again. I'm going back to my 1.5 inch wash brush, Aquafine, the big one, and I'm taking the paint off the pencil again and just paint that on there. Very, very easy. A bit more. Mop up and take this down a little bit. Now it's to my number 8 brush. I finished with that look, so I'll just wipe that off. And it's back to normal look, ready to use. Now to my number 8 brush for the rest of the painting. I'm starting off with the building, like so. Just wet it. I'm getting a nice texture to that because of the texture of the paper. Mop out. And a little bit in there. Washing my brush out again. And that weak brown there, so it's much, much lighter look. Just a hint of colour. I'll have a little bit of my blue again. Oops. With my blue just for a stroke in the roof there. And then to the trees. Starting off with the weaker ones, very, very weak and distant. Now to the stronger ones. And I'm going in with the lighter colour first, wetting the lighter colour first, sorry. Then going into the dark stuff and bringing that up. Carefully around my building. And moving the paint around slightly, merging the colours into each other. Here, again with the lighter colour, Remember I put two greens on here, the lighter green first, then the darker green, bringing one into the other, and then into the blue and the brown down at the bottom. Carefully around my building again. And again, because it's still wet, I can carry on dabbing on and move the colour around slightly. Look, formed a bit of a hedge there. Pick a bit of that up there, pop some in there. And now into the path. Nice and light. All with my number 8 round brush. Now to the grasses around it, the grasses around it. And I'm dabbing. Just stippling on. And again, a few touches here. Just wetting it. Now, I just want a little bit of, and this is the other thing about mixing the colours. I'm going to take, you can mix the colours on the brush. Look, I've got, what's this one? Rose Carmine. And my Prussian blue again, the same blue that I used the sky. So, what I'm doing to start with, get my red off the pencil. Now get some blue. So that I'm mixing on the brush. There you see, a bit more red. There, that's the colour I want. All I need now are a few bits of shadow here and there. So I've made that colour on the brush from the pencils. A little bit down here, look. Again, mix some more. A little bit down here. And those little bits and pieces just kind of like bring the thing to life. I shall soften these out again in a second, darkening a little bit more here. And dab on. A bit up into the trees there for the shadow behind the building in the trees, and it also highlights the building. Now, just with a clean damp brush, soften these colours. And that's just adding a little bit more texture and tone to all the grasses, look. And now for the shadow side, got it that much stronger. And we'll have a little bit of that in here as well. Too much red, a bit more blue onto it. That's better. And a few little bits and pieces in the path. Now, wash out, squeeze out, and soften some of those. And now I want some shadow, actually a little bit more there. Now I want some shadow on the building itself and some windows and stuff in there as well. shadow there a bit more. Now a nice strong shadow underneath the roof of the building where it meets the building, from the roof line. Whilst I'm in with that, we'll just have a few windows and stuff. All with the tip of the number 8 round brush. Bit there. And darken the shadowed side a little bit more. All with that same mixing on the brush. And you can mix any colours on your brush, just don't do more than 2 really. And there you go, a very simple little drawing that has become a very simple little painting. Now, I showed you in my sketchbooks, and like I said, I'll just show you this quickly. Look, I've made a mess of my pencils. Look, get rid of them, wipe them off, and there, we're ready for painting again. Just wipe them off. And this is when I realise that I've forgotten my smock. So, as I said, this business about a few little bits of detail, and not detail, but highlighting here and there. Pen, there's nothing wrong with using a bit of pen in your sketches, in your sketchbooks, but I don't go around buying fancy art pens, it's just a black biro. And all I need, look, we just have a few lines here and there, just to highlight bits and pieces. Windows. To the outside of that shadow. And a few little squiggles here and there. Squiggles, that's another technical term for you. A bit more there, a bit more there. A few bits of grasses there. And really, that's all you need. Now, I'm not very good for sales, it's got to be said, because like everything, I say that I use limited of whatever I'm using, and there are hundreds of colours out there. Likewise in watercolour pencils, there's huge tins with about 76 pencils in it or something. 24 is all you're ever going to need. That is my tin. It's my new tin. But when I used to use the old Dale Rowney pencils from donkeys years ago, I still had a tin of 24. These, I've got everything I could possibly need in there, for landscape especially. But you can, when you buy them, I'm going to close that up now. When you buy them, sharpen them as you need them. And they come in either tins of 24, that's my tin, or tins of 12. And these are all on my website, as ever, charlesevansart.com. Just go to the e-shop, they're all there. And you'll find that the prices are a lot cheaper than most places. And the paper I used was the Langton Rough. Now, to be honest, if you've got a tin of pencils and a sketchbook or a watercolour pad, that's an A4 size watercolour pad of the Langton Rough, and perfect for going outdoors on location. Tin of pencils, your pad, that's about all you need, to be honest, because you don't need a pencil to do the outline drawing, just do the outline drawing with the colour that you're going to use. And as I said, you can then get home and wet it and make it into a painting. If you're going out on location, you want to do everything there, out on location, take a couple of brushes and a water pot. You've got everything you need to do your paintings out on location there. 2 brushes, 1.5 inch flat, number 8 round, you've got the lot. You can have more brushes if you want, but I find that I don't need them. Now, not so much for watercolour pencils, but for watercolour artists. All the tips and techniques are in here. Charles Evans, Pocketbook for Watercolour Artists. I had to check on the title then. I've done so many books over the years. But this one, it's got everything in watercolours. Just use the same with your watercolour pencils, same techniques. So hopefully you've enjoyed this one. Have fun with them, play with them, experiment with them, because watercolour pencils are a lovely addition to your watercolour kit. Take care, have fun, and I'll see you soon.